But he says, unless a game really hooks me, I bounce around a lot and I don't finish games. So it would be cool if you did a video on how you schedule your gaming. How many games you're playing at once. Joshua says I was diagnosed with Asperger's at 41. I mean, I'm sure I should probably go get and see if there's anything, and maybe I will at some point. I'm 44, almost 45, and I've gone my whole life this way, and I've figured out how to make it work, but I recognize that I have issues. I just don't know what those issues are. Definitely focus issues. It drives my wife nuts sometimes. Anyway, so the one caveat to all of this that I will say, one of the reasons that I'm able to stay so structured is because I learned very many years ago that I have to have a schedule. So my Google Calendar is my saving grace, and also anybody who's been here for a while know that I go through notebooks like this. I'll go through 3 or 4 of these a year. Literally every time I'm streaming, I just go through and I'm making notes, I'm timestamping things, I'm coming up with ideas, and this is my day-to-day. I have a Google Calendar, and then I have this right here. So everything that gets like a thought, if a thought springs into my head, it gets written down, because then it becomes a video, or it becomes a talking point, or it becomes something that I can squeeze in somewhere. As to how I schedule my gaming, the caveat to this is that I do this for a living, so it's a little different for me than it is for the average person who's just gaming for fun. Because most people who are just gaming for fun aren't going to focus in the same way that I do, because I'm approaching this from a monetary standpoint as opposed to just a fun standpoint. Fun is always my number one factor. Co-Carnage talks about this a lot. Making sure, like, to avoid burnout, you focus on the fun first, and then that can help you avoid the burnout. Fun is important, but for me, I'm always trying to focus on the fun meeting the finance, and how can I blend those two to grow the channel, grow the numbers, make more money, grow the Twitch, grow the YouTube, all those things. Valentina following over on Twitch, thank you so much for the follow. We're multi-streaming right now as an example, so we're always focused on how can we do bigger things. This post over here talks about the next 6 weeks. I was like, first and foremost, we started a new homesteading live stream at 4 o'clock in the morning, where it's our cats and the chickens and Chris outside doing chores. That's like 4:30 in the morning to 8:30 in the morning. Talking about, the Twitch growth, the 2 streams a day that we're doing right now, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. Just wrapped up Star Wars Outlaws, wrapped up Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. We're doing a little bit of No Man's Sky still. We're starting Shattered Space DLC at the end of the month. We're starting our Starfield run on the 20th. That becomes the main stream game for the day-to-day streams at 9 a.m. Central. It's our second playthrough, which we were playing in May, and now we're picking it back up to roll into that. And then we're getting into the Diablo 4 DLC, rolling into New World Eternum after that, the Black Ops 6 campaign, and then Dragon Age the Veilguard, which becomes, rolls into November. And then in November, I've got Assassin's Creed Shadows and Stalker 2. And then December, we've got Indiana Jones and the Great Circle and blah, 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 blah. This is just a reminder to people of the next 6 weeks. And then I have a video about the next 6 months. So we'll go back to the game now so that you guys can see this beautiful visage and pay attention to this. So there's a couple of components I would answer here. For Select 20, which is how many games you're playing at once. How do you schedule that? Well, that honestly just kind of depends on the given month. Any given month that's out there, there's generally 2 or 3 releases I'm probably going to want to play. So I just try to factor that in, but there's also some games that I always play on a long-term basis. So as an example, I have a long-term commit with World of Warcraft, which I started in November of last year because of the World Soul Saga. So we have a community there. We play together on Wednesdays and Saturday nights. So I'm always going to play World of Warcraft on Wednesdays and Saturdays because I have a community of people there. Those people watch my videos. Those people tune into the streams, and we're always growing. So that's there. Lord of the Rings Online and Star Wars: Old Republic are games that I have played since launch, and I have playlists on this channel that have hundreds of videos in them. But I don't main these games anymore. I was not planning on playing this game this year until we saw, that there was a lot of traffic around of news posts that I did. And well, it's the cost of opportunity. So how do I fit Lord of the Rings Online into my existing schedule to take advantage of the fact that people are hungry for the content and want to watch videos around it, and they're doing well in the algorithm. I would be stupid not to do Lord of the Rings Online this year, even if I didn't necessarily have plans for it, because the cost of opportunity is there. So this one got smudged in on Monday nights because I had Monday nights free. I don't normally stream at nights, but then I decided, why not? It's the cost of opportunity. If I want to do channel growth and I want to see better numbers, we'll fit this in there. Then around that, I look for games that I know are going to please me as a gamer, but also are things that I know are going to do well for the channel. And this is where it's going to depend on a few things. Because as an example, a recent game that came out was, is it Black Myth Wukong, I think is what it's called. That would have done good numbers for the channel, for both channels, for YouTube and Twitch. But I chose not to play it willingly because I don't like action combat games. And I was already busy with Star Wars Outlaws, the War Within launch, and Space Marine 2. I had already had those games planned out. So trying to fit Black Myth Wukong in for like 2 or 3 days before the War Within launched was like, there's no point in me spending $70 on that game when I'm not going to be able to give it its due course. Maybe next year when I have nothing else to do, I might play that game. I just don't typically like action combat. I do tend to focus on RPGs more than anything else because RPGs allow me to do a variety of things. It's not just streaming a game. It's also the fact that I can create class guides, tips and trick guides, build guides. So I can play a river hobbit. I can play a halfling, right? So I can create a racial guide. I can create starting zone guides. I can create guides around that. But then I could say it's a burglar, so now I could do burglar guides, a low-level burglar guide, a medium-level burglar guide, a high-level burglar guide. Oh, I have a hunter. There's a hunter video. There's a hunter guide, a low-level hunter guide, a medium-level hunter guide. There's the other guide. How do you get mounts? There's a mount guide. Best starting zones in the game. There's that. I did my LOTRO tourism series back in the day where we took locations from the books and found them in the game, and we traveled with the Fellowship, up to the Misty Mountains. So I'm always looking at what are games that I can play that are going to do well on the stream, but also allow me to create content around them beyond the streams, because I've told people we're coming up on 3 years of doing this full time. And I've said for a long time, I'm not a streamer, I'm a content creator, because streaming has always been secondary to the content creation, because content creation makes up like 80 to 85% of my revenue comes from the ad revenue on YouTube. That has slowly been skewing more towards the streaming side since I started adding Twitch into the repertoire as of October of last year. We're able to multi-stream now. So now that the Twitch audience is growing, I'm making revenue through Twitch as well now. That's growing at a far more rapid pace than YouTube, percentage-wise. YouTube is much bigger. We crossed 36,000 followers on YouTube the other day. It still makes up like 90% of my revenue is YouTube. But because content creation has always been where I make the bulk of my money, I'm focused on long-term SEO content. What are the videos that people are going to be searching for when they go to Google or when they go to YouTube? And so it's all about what are the types of games that I can play that allow me to create 25, 35, 45, 50 videos around the streams so that I can make the guides, play the streams, use the streams to promote the guides, and that's all part of a bigger picture. So I do focus on fun, but I do have a business strategy, and I do pay attention to the games that I can create the most amount of content around. There are exceptions to those rules when I know they're going to be short games. So as an example, a couple months back, I did Flintlock, which was a Game Pass Day 1 release, like 10 hours. So I was able to squeeze that in over like 2 or 3 days of streams and just bang it out. And I didn't do any guides around it. I did an early thoughts video. I did the streams. I cut those into 30-minute episodes for a Let's Play series on YouTube. And then I did a final review. That was it. Nobody Wants to Die, I think was another one. It was like a sci-fi detective noir game, first person, super cool. Little 6-hour, 8-hour game. Smudged it in there in between a bunch of other stuff I was doing. Then I have things like No Man's Sky. I was playing games and I was doing a bunch of first impressions videos in between major releases, looking for something, just playing things and looking for fun things to do. And I threw like 6 videos at the wall. I did like 6 first impressions videos of games I hadn't played before. I did a No Man's Sky video that took off and went crazy, and I went, well, shit. I like the game. I'm having fun. Let's do No Man's Sky for a few weeks. That's what we just wrapped up doing, like right before Star Wars Outlaws and stuff. Because I dropped a No Man's Sky video on the channel that did like 50,000 views, and I went, well, I would be stupid not to go play No Man's Sky when I'm having fun with it, and the audience is reacting to it. That was one of those ones that was like the cost of opportunity. It was like I would be stupid to pass this up, but it wasn't planned. Other games I planned. So, generally speaking, I try to do 2 or 3 new releases every month. And if they are 25 to 30 hour games to 40, like so let's say 30 to 40 hour games, I can generally get through 2 or 3 of those in a month. I typically, right now, I'm streaming 6 to 7 hours a day, and then I do video creation around that. So I typically, the alarm goes off at 4 o'clock, and I work from 4:30 until about, kind of depends on the day, 6:30 at night. I do take a nap in the afternoon. I help Chris as often as I can with grocery shopping and stuff. But I log 12 to 14 hour days pretty much every single day, sometimes 16 hour days. And that's it. There's a TikTok video from a few months ago that, don't ask me how I did it, I just did it. It was hard, you know, and that's literally what it's like. It's like you just put your nose to the grindstone, put in the hours, and do it. But everything for me is, it has to be structured. And so having a structure helps me finish games because I have an objective of saying I have 2 weeks to get this done before that launches. So I've got to get this game done. And every game I do is going to get an early thoughts video. It's going to get a final review. Typically speaking, we're going to do some class guides. There's a few videos that I will always do. Those two, I will also usually do like, what class should you play? And I almost always do an ultimate beginner's guide for every game that I play, which is an accumulation of my thoughts as a beginner for other beginners. So most games, I have about 10 to 12 videos that I will make around those games, plus the streams, and then I'm off to the next thing. So hopefully that answers your question, Select 20. That's how I schedule my gaming. And again, the caveat here is that because I do this for a living, it's it's a little different for me because I'm not just playing for a hobby. But typically, how many games I'm playing at once, it's going to change on a month-to-month basis. But at any given time, I'm usually only playing about, I guess it just depends. Like, I usually have the mainstream game that's going on, plus World of Warcraft, and then, like, right now we're doing Lord of the Rings Online on Monday nights and No Man's Sky on Sunday mornings. So there's 4 games that I'm playing at any given time. That's probably about the max. So I would say 3 to 4 at any given time. But it's very structured. Everything's laid out on specific days. The mainstream game is always going to be at like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning Central Time, and I'll play for like 3 hours. And that's every single day. And then the evening streams are broken up into the games that I only play like once a week or twice a week, like Lord of the Rings Online and World of Warcraft. Those happen at nights. No Man's Sky is 5 a.m. Central Time on Sunday mornings because I have a pretty significant European following for that game. So I do that one on Sunday mornings when the European audience is in the afternoons and they're able to just hang out, and they're not busy with work and other stuff. So yeah, that's the roundabout answer to your question, Select, and hopefully that was an educational video. Joshua Carn says I used to use notebooks. Do it again. Good advice. Yeah, the notebooks saved my life. And yes, it's all about maximizing your time and output for sure. So work smarter, not harder is the key there. And it's not, every month is a little different. But as a general rule, yeah, I'm playing 3 or 4 games at any given time. And to be honest with you, for a long time, when you just said that, I'm thinking of the goblins from World of Warcraft. Time is money, friend.